record a new episode of our podcast Culturizate. In today's episode, we are going to talk about Mexican women who had an impact on the history and international culture. We can start saying that Mexican culture is such a large and varied culture that has an impact not only us as Mexicans, but also in many people around the world. Cases of Mexican women like Frida Kahlo, who became known for their history and for their art, or women like Maria Felix or Dolores del Rio, who have transcended as the most important and talented actress of the golden age of cinema in Mexico. So we can start talking about each and every one of these unique women like them alone, who had to go through so many things to get where they got to, and who show the new generations that is not an obstacle that you cannot overcome if you set your mind to it and fight for what you want. So, Michal, what do you think of Frida Kahlo? How do you think she has had an impact on today's culture?
For me, she is an inspiring woman, since despite the suffering she had through her life and all the obstacles she presented, she was one of the most recognized painters in the 20th century and worldwide. She also leaves us inspiring phrases as "Fear to that I love them if I have wings to fly." Since despite suffering from polio and having spinal problems, she motivates us to value the things we have over those we have lost. So also to be positive people, she represents the Mexican culture due to their typical clothing and lifestyle. Despite the advertised experience in his relationship with Diego Rivera, we cannot deny that both were important for the growth of their careers and inspiration for the painter, and that there are many works dedicated to him, such as the self-portrait of Diego and Frida.
Hey, Anemi, can you tell us something about Maria Felix, this incredible woman that inspires a lot of people around the world, and it has a really big impact in the cinema in Mexico?
Maria Felix was discovered by the director Miguel Zacarias, who tried and managed to promote the passionate coolness that characterized her performance. She made her film debut with Miguel Zacarias in 1942, playing the film El Peñón de las Ánimas, which began the list of films in which she shared a cast with what will later be her third husband, Jorge Negrete. She worked throughout Latin America and also in Europe, especially in Spain, France, and Italy, where she achieved great popularity. The Soulless Woman in 1943, a film in which she took on her archetype of a beautiful and healthy woman. In the same year, in 1943, she was awarded the starring role of the film Doña Bárbara, based on an adaptation of the anonymous work by Rómulo Gallegos and directed by Fernando Fuentes. In this film, she plays a super dominant, cruel woman, the classic mean-eater, what in American cinema is called a bum, a term derived from the abbreviation of vampires, or female fatale, who will become her predominant characterization through his film and career.
As we see, we can talk about how the vision of this woman changed things in the cinematographic world and how interesting it is. And speaking of influential women, and what can you tell us about Consuelo Vázquez and her iconic song Bésame Mucho?
Well, as many of you know, or maybe you don't know, She was a great Mexican composer, originally from Guadalajara. Since she was little, she was interested in music, for which she began to study at the music school in Guadalajara. At that same time, she carried out her studies. Her teacher at the same time saw the talent that was in her and took her to Mexico City, where she began to study at the best conservatory of the moment, the Palacio de Bellas Artes School, where she graduated as a concert pianist and music teacher in 1938. What you know is like she wrote this song, Bésame Mucho, but the curious fact is that when she wrote this song, she has never been in a relationship or even give her first kiss. So it was very cute and romantic for me when I heard about it. She said that she wrote this song when it came from her heart. And it's very, very interesting because these songs became very famous and transcended generation and is still remembered with a great affection. I want to say that this woman is really an example for me, since she shows me that no matter how impossible or difficult your dream seems, you can always fulfill them if you give your all and give yourself with passion.
Wow, it's impressive how music can transcend so much. And speaking of transcending, what can you tell us about Yalitza Aparicio and her role in the movie Roma?
Well, what about Yalitza? Well, we know about her and her rise as an actress. This girl came out of nowhere and starred in the movie Roma by Alfonso Cuarón, a movie who made her be recognized internationally. She was even nominated for an Oscar for this movie. Before starting acting, she was a preschool teacher in a community in Oaxaca. Today, she is a renowned actress. You can see how your life changes from one moment to the next, and she is an example of this. She gained international recognition in 2018 for her acting debut in the film of Roma. Time magazine ranked her as the best performance of 2018, and in 2019, Time magazine named her one of the 100 most influential people in the world. On October 4 of that year, she was named United Nations Ambassador for Indigenous People, and the same month she was included on the BBC's list of the 100 most influential women in the world in 2019. Since 2020, she has been a member of the Academies of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences.
Wow, incredible! It's really inspiring to see how people can change their lives and have a positive impact on the world. And last but not least, what can you tell us about Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz and her literary legacy?
Well, Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz was a Mexican writer who was born in the time of the Viceroyalty, the greatest figure of Spanish American letters of the 17th century. In 1667, she entered a convent of the Descalzo Carmelites in Mexico and remained there for 4 months, after which she left in due to health problems. 2 years later, she entered a convent of the Order of Saint Geronimo, this time for good. Given her limited religious vocation, it seems that Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz preferred the convent to marriage to continue enjoying her intellectual hobbies. She said, "Living alone, not having any obligatory occupation that impedes the freedom of my study, nor community rumors that prevent the calm silence of my books."
Wow, I mean, the poetry of Sor Juana is incredible, and she wrote so beautiful poems. So now we're gonna talk about one of the most talented and influential actresses in the contemporary cinema, Salma Hayek, who is a Mexican actress who has managed to conquer Hollywood with her talent and charisma.
Salma was embarrassed language, characteristic, and places. She has conquered with auditions and hearts around the world. Salma is the example of hard and humble work, which has gained an important position through ingenuity. Since the beginning of her career, Salma has explored of the world of acting in its aspects, representing important roles in film, theater, and even soap operas in the native Mexico. Salma is a Mexican actress and producer, first recognized in the film industry of the role in the film Desesperado alongside Antonio Banderas, and for me it's a really good movie. And Salma has been nominated for the Frida movie. Salma led in her venture into the world and film and television production, founding Ventana Rosa, a production company founded by 1999 that had led to television series like Ugly Betty and more recently to streaming platform.
Wow, that's really interesting. I mean, Salma is an incredible and talented actress. But Emilio, do you know some Mexican women who were relevant in their activities?
Well, we can say in the world of sports, some Mexican women have stood out and left their mark. We could start first with the athlete Norma Enriqueta Basilio. She was the first woman in the history of the Olympic Games to carry the Olympic torch and light the cauldron. In addition, she was the national champion of the 80-meter hurdles race. This was more obvious beginning to the inclusion of women in the most important events in sports. Years later, the Mexican weightlifter Soraya Jimenez reached the final at the Sydney Olympics in 2000, competing with the North Korean Ri Sung-hui. The North Korean was a favorite to win after lifting 122.5 kilograms in her last attempt. The commentators said that it was impossible that another woman could lift more weight. But Soraya, against all opinions, she managed to lift 127 kilograms in her last attempt, setting a new record and winning the gold medal, Soraya being the first Mexican woman to win a gold medal. Even with an achievement as big as this, there were more women who have won gold medals in their sports. We can include Maria Espinosa, a warrior who has championed in Taekwondo at the Beijing Olympics in 2008, winning the gold medal. In London in 2012, she won the silver medal, and in Rio 2016, she won the bronze medal. Also, in Beijing 2007, she was the world champion of Taekwondo, thus being one of the most relevant martial artists in the world. The achievements of these athletes are very important, demonstrating the capacity that women have in activities that in the past were considered only sports for men. Therefore, this came to inspire many women to follow in their footsteps and promote female sportsmanship in the world. Even an example that we can see today is how the Mexican Women's Soccer League is beginning to grow in popularity.
Alright, about the limit of time, it's time to stop the podcast. But we can say something, conclusions about this conversation, and we can say that we learned about women and for many years have a lot of changes and obstacles in a world dominated by the men, especially in Mexico, and country which nowadays still have problems about sexism in so many activities. But these women not only successed in what they did, but also left a mark and inspired many women to explore their skills and leave a legacy in the world. Thanks for listening. I hope you to hear for the next week, and goodbye.